Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Kenyan authorities have imposed a curfew in the northeast part of the country, a day after radical Muslims slaughtered dozens of Christian university students. The Muslim terror group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the horrific attack. George Thomas has the details.
There's a $215,000 reward for this man, identified by Kenyan authorities as the mastermind behind the slaughter of at least 147 Christian students. On Thursday morning, 4 gunmen strapped with suicide vests and armed with AK-47s stormed the Garissa University College in northeast Kenya.
It was around 5 a.m. We wake up early in the morning for the morning prayers. We tried to turn on the lights, but they were not working.
Eyewitnesses say the terrorists went from room to room, asking students whether they were Christian or Muslim. Those who identified themselves as Christian were murdered on the spot without mercy. And it appears the gunmen had extensive knowledge of the campus layout, even targeting an area often used by Christians for prayer. Many of those killed were reportedly beheaded after being asked to recite verses from the Quran. The siege lasted 13 hours before police finally stormed the university. The gunmen died when they detonated their suicide vests.
On behalf of my government, I extend condolences to the families of those who have perished in this attack.
Garissa is close to the Somali border. The town is mainly Muslim, but many Christians attend the university. The military has stepped up security as a dusk to dawn curfew has been ordered in Garissa and 3 nearby counties. The Somali-based Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the attack. Since 2008, Kenya has been at war with these Islamic terrorists. The group has launched several attacks on Kenyan soil, but this was by far the deadliest. George Thomas, CBN News.
President Obama says a framework nuclear agreement has been reached between Iran and the 6 world powers. People in Tehran took to the streets Thursday in celebration of the deal, but here in the U.S. and Israel, leaders are sending warnings about the danger the agreement poses.
This deal is a step in a very, very dangerous direction. It leaves Iran with an expansive nuclear infrastructure intact, doesn't even close down one Iranian nuclear facility, not one.
This deal is going to threaten America's national security interests, and it's going to lead to a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region in the world.
A final deal is meant to cut significantly into Iran's bomb-capable technology while giving Tehran quick access to assets and markets blocked by international sanctions.
This is the safest, best way to make the world safer by reducing the ability of Iran to be able to have a nuclear weapon.
A final agreement must be reached by June 30th. More than 500 people are dead and tens of thousands displaced because of the fighting in Yemen. At least 90 of the dead are children. That is according to the UN. Most of the casualties are due to airstrikes from Saudi Arabia. The Saudi government began the air war to support the Yemeni government, which has been fighting off a rebel offensive. Yemen is a U.S. ally in the war on terror. The U.S. pulled military advisors and embassy personnel out of the country weeks ago. Here at home, lawmakers in Arkansas and Indiana have passed bills amending their new religious freedom laws after a media uproar and protests claiming the original measures allow for discrimination, particularly against gays. Supporters said that was never true.
Most importantly, the change in the RFRA law will hopefully put an end to this greatest misperception of all, and that is that the people of Indiana discriminate, because I can tell you honestly that nothing could be further from the truth.
Meanwhile, police have stepped up patrols around a small-town pizzeria in Indiana after it received numerous threats. After one of the owners said they serve gay customers but would not serve a same-sex wedding. The threats were so severe, the owners have had to close the restaurant for now. Supporters put together a website where people could help the owners of Memories Pizza, and so far it's already raised $500,000. You can find a link to that site at cbnnews.com. Reverend Robert Schuller has died at the age of 88 after a battle with cancer. Schuller started preaching in 1955 at a rented drive-in theater, and in 1970 he began a television ministry called The Hour of Power. In 1980 he built the Crystal Cathedral for his booming ministry, which was sold after the church filed for bankruptcy in 2010 after Schuller's departure. Schuller's son says his father's ministry saved lives by helping many people decide not to commit suicide. Another blood moon is on the rise this weekend. Saturday's full lunar eclipse is the third in a series of 4 over a 2-year period. Pastor, author, and Israel advocate John Hagee says God is speaking through the celestial events. Historically, blood moons have preceded dangerous times for the Jews and the state of Israel. In 2014, a blood moon occurred before Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza. Tomorrow's happens just as the U.S. has reached a controversial agreement with Iran over its nuclear program. CBN News has reported extensively on the blood moons. See those stories at our website, cbnnews.com. Coming up, the creative brilliance behind a religious classic. We go into the mind of the man who made Ben-Hur. For many, watching the movie Ben-Hur has become an Easter tradition, but there is an amazing story behind the film. As Wendy Griffith shows us, everything about Ben-Hur is larger than life.
The 1959 blockbuster Ben-Hur made history with a record 11 Academy Awards. And the 1925 version is making a comeback. What many may not know, however, is that Hollywood didn't create this classic story. The idea came from the best-selling novel Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ, published in 1880. The book tells the story of a life-altering encounter between a first-century Jewish prince and Jesus of Nazareth. The author behind Ben-Hur is Lew Wallace, a true Renaissance man.
He tried different things. He loved to paint, he loved to write, he loved to do creative things. He loved the military. He became a prosecuting attorney. He was in the legislature for a term.
Wallace showed a talent for writing early in life. He learned about the Bible while at boarding school. While he didn't care for church, the story of the 3 wise men fascinated him.
Little did I dream then what those few verses were to bring me, that out of them Ben-Hur was one day to be evoked.
Wallace's writing took a back seat to other priorities. He fought in the Mexican-American War and the Civil War, becoming the youngest major general in the Union Army. He also married and had a son. Throughout the years, he kept coming back to the biblical account of the 3 wise men. So he decided to write a magazine article about them.
I had no convictions about God or Christ. I neither believed nor disbelieved in them. Yet when the work was fairly begun, I found myself writing reverentially, with awe.
Still, Wallace had much to learn about God, as he found out in a chance encounter with a well-known atheist named Robert Ingersoll.
Well, Robert Ingersoll knew far more about the Bible. You don't preach against something unless you know it.
Right.
And so he just kind of filleted Lew.
The time had come for Wallace to form his own opinion on the subject of religion.
My ignorance of it was painfully a spot of deeper darkness in the darkness. I was ashamed of myself.
And he realized at that point, I have no business submitting this finished story for publication. I don't know what I was talking about. I need to do the research. I need to learn the Bible. I need to learn the story.
Early in his research, Wallace created the fictional character of Judah Ben-Hur, telling how he witnessed the real-life events leading up to the death and resurrection of Christ. Wallace soon began to see God through the eyes of his character.
Long before I was through with my book, I became a believer in God and Christ.
This is the original manuscript of Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ. 650 pages, handwritten in purple ink. When Lew Wallace delivered this to Harper & Brothers back in 1880, they had no idea it was about to make publishing history. The book became the best-selling novel of the 19th century. It has never been out of print. What kind of impact did Ben-Hur have on post-Civil War country.
It just was the right book at the right time. People were looking for ways to reconcile, to come together. They were exploring, how can there be a God that would allow a war to happen like this?
After its publication, letters flooded in, including one from President James Garfield. He wrote, "With this beautiful and reverent book, you have lightened the burden of my daily life." Wallace's own burdens had always been lightened outdoors. He did most of his writing under what came to be known as the Wallace Beech Tree.
Its spreading branches droop to the ground, weighed down by their wealth of foliage, and under them I am shut in as by the walls of a towering green tent.
That famous Wallace Beech Tree is no longer here. It actually died shortly after Wallace did and was replaced by this bronze statue of him behind me. But right over here is a building that Wallace dreamed about for decades, but never had the resources to build until the success of Ben-Hur.
Lou built this as his private retreat.
Wallace designed this 19th century man cave where he spent his golden years, writing every day until his death in 1905. His grave marker is inscribed with a quote from Ben-Hur by one of his beloved wise men.
I would not give 1 hour of life as a soul for 1,000 years of life as a man.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Up next, Game of Thrones meets the Bible. That's how Mark Burnett describes his latest TV series. We'll take you behind the scenes of AD, The Bible Continues. Next.
Are you or are you not?
What happens when you mix biblically themed entertainment and Hollywood? A boom in ratings. This year, we've seen a steady increase in the number of films and television shows that tell stories based on the Bible, and numbers show it is paying off. National Geographic saw its biggest weekend audience ever when they showed Killing Jesus, a story of the crucifixion of Jesus. The showing boasted 3.7 million viewers. And on CNN, Finding Jesus was #1 on its debut weekend with nearly 1.2 million viewers, making it the second highest rated CNN original series premiere ever. CBN News spoke with a media expert on what's behind the trend.
What Hollywood looks for are remarkable stories about amazing people with complex, exciting lives. And I think when you're looking at the life of Jesus, you pretty much have landed exactly where you're going to find the most interesting, complex, amazing, powerful character that you can find. And if done right, as you indicated, with respect and with treating the faith and the people who adhere to that faith with respect, I think then you're going to get rating success.
And you can see more of what Gary Schniegeber had to say. Just log on to cbnnews.com for the entire interview. An epic television series debuts on NBC this Easter Sunday. It's produced by Mark Burnett and Roma Downey. Their series, The Bible, drew more than 100 million viewers to the History Channel. I sat down with the husband and wife team for a behind-the-scenes look at AD, The Bible Continues.
The new network television series AD, The Bible Continues, picks up where the wildly successful cable miniseries The Bible ended, at the death and resurrection of Jesus.
Are you or are you not the Messiah?
I am. And soon you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of God.
The charge is blasphemy. He deserves to die.
It's very, very relatable, isn't it?
Roma Downey and Mark Burnett are the producers, bringing the pages of the Bible to life for today's viewers.
Clearly, the story of the Bible, and in the case of AD, The Bible Continues, the story of Acts of the Apostles, really grabs people emotionally. But then you've got to make it very well and execute on the promise. And, that's our job. I guess we're probably experts in making television.
That would be an understatement, as Burnett is the engine behind hits like Survivor, The Apprentice, The Voice, Shark Tank, and the Bible miniseries.
When we were filming the Bible series in Morocco, we wished we'd had, more than 10 hours. We wished we'd had 100 hours because the stories are so deep and so rich. And we decided while we were there and then that we would take a deeper dive into the book of Acts.
Have you ever stared into a man's face as you thrust a sword into
This
his
12-hour series takes audiences through the first 10 chapters of the book of Acts, the first decades following the resurrection of Jesus. It's an epic production that Mark Burnett describes as Game of Thrones meets the Bible.
Very tumultuous and bloody time. Those apostles and the growing group of disciples could have been killed at any moment. It was a power struggle between the Romans, the temple authorities, the zealots. In the middle of it was this group of the followers of Jesus who was spreading the word. They could have been killed every day.
This man walks with this Son of God.
I do not! I don't know him! I've never seen him before!
Following Christ wasn't popular at that time, and we see the real-life script moving from the Bible and history books to today's headlines.
Here we have, with AD, so much of the story is about the persecution of the early disciples. And it's easy, I think, for people to say, oh, that happened 2,000 years ago. But it is happening today. And we need to step up and we need to take care of each other.
So, in addition to shining a light on biblical persecution, this Hollywood husband and wife is helping rescue, restore, and eventually return thousands of Middle East Christians who fled their homes to escape persecution at the hands of the ISIS terror group. The couple has started the Cradle Fund to combat the crisis in the cradle of Christianity.
This fund has managed to bring 72,000 Middle Eastern Christians safely through the winter. There were 500,000 displaced. Imagine escaping being killed, crucified in fact, but then to freeze to death in the Syrian winter, Iraqi winter.
Because of the success of our shows, we have a spotlight that lands on us from time to time, and yet we're just the catalyst, and God is the author. And so, but as the light is shining here, we thought it's an opportunity to reflect it back and to make some noise for the persecution of Christians overseas.
That noise will continue.
It will be defiled.
Yes. And Jerusalem will rise up and there will be war.
Exactly.
As this rare and epic television series plays out on the small screen for at least 12 episodes.
There's lots of big, epic event series on television, but only the Bible series, and now AD, the Bible continues. And we're hoping this goes on for many years. We're not thinking this is 1 year. We're already in anticipation of great ratings, scripting season 2.
AD The Bible Continues starts this Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on NBC.
It's time for March Madness. And once again, CBN will be on the court and in the locker room, bringing you behind-the-scenes access on Facebook and Twitter. In addition to that, we're also going to talk to players from both teams to find out how their faith impacts them on and off the court. So look for that story airing on the 700 Club. So here's what I need you guys to do. First, go to Facebook and make sure you like this video. And second, comment below letting us know who you think is going to win the big dance. For CBN News, I'm Caleb Kinchlow, and this has been your Digital Download.
And finally, this Good Friday, we leave you with a faithful word to send you into this Easter weekend where we'll celebrate the resurrection of our Savior, Jesus Christ. I was thinking about that as I drove home last night and felt compelled to pray this prayer. Lord, resurrect in me any passion or dream that I have allowed to let die. I want to die empty. Help me to pour out all that you have poured into me. I hope you'll pray that prayer and share with us what dreams arise in you. Use the hashtag CBN Friday Faithful. And in the words of rapper Trip Lee, you can call me Lazarus, from a dead man walking. Well, that is going to do it now for CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Take the time to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a fabulous Friday and have a wonderful Resurrection Sunday. We'll see you next week.